Nwanta village was a place of tradition, wealth, and whispers. It was a town where merchants thrived, chiefs displayed their riches, and beauty was worshipped like a god. Women took great pride in their appearance, smooth, glowing skin, intricately braided hair, and the finest accessories money could buy. But in the center of it all stood Ajana's Beauty Emporium, a business so grand that it outshone every market stall and shop in the town. It wasn't just a store, it was a phenomenon. Ajana sold the finest beauty products ever seen in Nwanta. Her powders made skin glow like the morning sun. Her oils erased blemishes overnight. And her wigs? Silky, smooth, and impossibly perfect. Yet, what puzzled everyone was her prices. Other merchants traveled to faraway lands to source human hair, selling them for outrageous amounts, but Ajana's hairpieces were affordable to the rich and common folk alike. "How does she do it?" they whispered. Some said she had a secret supplier overseas. Others believed she used ancient tricks to cut costs. But no one could deny that her products were unmatched. What the people of Nwanta didn't know was that Ajana's success came with a terrible price. Ajana had not always been the queen of beauty. She was born into a noble household, the only child of a wealthy chief and his beloved wife. Her birth was celebrated with drums, feasting, and praise songs. People came from far and wide to shower her with gifts, gold bangles, silk fabrics, and charms of protection. Her father, Chief Okari, adored her. He sent her to the best schools, clothed her in the finest garments, and promised that one day, she would inherit his wealth. But fate had other plans. One evening, while returning from a business trip, her parents' carriage lost control and plunged into a ravine. Their bodies were recovered the next morning, mangled beyond recognition. Ajana's world shattered. She was only 17. One moment, she was the cherished daughter of a nobleman, the next, she was a grieving orphan. Then came the betrayal. Her father's brothers, Uncle Ekan and Uncle Obadiah, arrived at their mansion the very next day. They demanded the keys to the family estate. "But my father's wealth belongs to me," Ajana protested, her voice shaking. Her uncles laughed. "You are just a girl," Ekan sneered. "You cannot own land or riches." Before she could protest further, they seized everything. The house, the lands, the businesses, all gone. Ajana was thrown out onto the streets, left with nothing but the clothes on her back. For weeks, she wandered the dusty roads of Nwanta, hungry and broken. She begged for food, but doors slammed in her face. She tried to sleep at the market square, but the guards chased her away. She had no family. No home. No future. One night, as she lay beneath a large mango tree, staring at the starless sky, she whispered, "Is this how I will die?" Her stomach clenched from days without food. Her skin burned from the merciless sun. She could barely lift her head. And then, she heard the voice. The wind shifted. The trees rustled, and the air thickened, as if the very earth was holding its breath. Then she saw her. Emerging from the shadows was a woman unlike any Ajana had ever seen. Her hair was silver, flowing like liquid. Her eyes glowed like the moon. Her dark skin shimmered with an unearthly light. "I am Omaidaik, goddess of beauty and fortune," she announced, her voice both soft and commanding. Ajana's heartbeat roared in her ears. "I have heard your cries," Omaidaik continued. "Your pain has reached my realm. And so, I have come to help you." Ajana's lips trembled. "Help me?" The goddess nodded. "You will never be poor again. You will rise above those who wronged you. I will make you the most powerful woman in Nwanta." Ajana's breath caught. "But there is a price," the goddess warned. Ajana hesitated. "What price?" Omaidaik's silver eyes gleamed. "I will give you a business like no other," she said. "Your beauty products will be unmatched. Your wigs will be coveted. Your oils will make any woman radiant." Ajana's heart raced. "But," the goddess continued, her voice turning eerie, "everyone who uses them will belong to me. Their souls will be tied to my realm." The words hung heavy in the air. Ajana thought about her uncles who had stolen everything. About the night she had gone hungry. About the shame of being cast aside. She was tired. "I will do it," she whispered. Omaidike's lips curved into a knowing smile. "Then it is done." The wind howled, and dark mist swirled around them. Ajana screamed as the world turned black. When she awoke, her hands were clutching a wooden chest filled with golden jars and silk-wrapped wigs. The curse had begun. Ajana's business exploded overnight. Her powders made women's skin glow like the gods themselves. Her oils erased every blemish. Her wigs? Unbelievably soft. Women from all over Nwanta flooded her shop. Even the wives of the wealthiest chiefs became her loyal customers. Her name became legend. But there was a cost. At night, the women who used her products had the same dream. They stood before a dark river, eerily silent. On the other side, a shadowy figure beckoned them forward. Some woke up screaming. Others woke up crying. But by morning, they forgot. Except for one woman. Nkem. Nkem was no ordinary woman. She was a healer, a herbalist, and a woman of strong spiritual wisdom. She felt the darkness surrounding Ajana's business the moment she stepped inside. When her best friend, Udoka, confessed she was having the river dream, Nkem knew something was terribly wrong. "This is not just a dream," she warned. "Something is calling you." The next day, they went to Ajana's shop. The moment Nkem stepped inside, she felt it. The air was heavy. The shop's golden walls seemed to shift and breathe. The scent of perfumes and oils was too sweet. Ajana greeted them with a radiant smile. "Welcome, Nkem." But Nkem saw past the illusion. "These products," she said slowly, "where do they come from?" Ajana's smile faltered. Nkem stepped closer. "What have you done, Ajana?" Silence. Then, the ground trembled. Ajana's eyes widened as the shelves began to shake. In the shadows, something moved. The curse had been exposed. The walls of Ajana's beauty emporium trembled. The once elegant golden shelves shook violently, sending jars of beauty oils and powders crashing onto the floor. A strange, thick mist began seeping from the cracks in the walls. Nkem stepped back, gripping Udoka's wrist tightly. "What is this?" Udoka gasped. Ajana's breathing was shallow and erratic. Her once perfectly smooth skin began to glisten with sweat. She grabbed onto a counter for support, her nails digging into the polished wood. This is nothing," she stammered, forcing a weak smile. But Nkem wasn't fooled. She reached into her beaded waist pouch and pulled out a bundle of dried herbs. She held them up and began whispering an ancient incantation under her breath. The moment the words left her lips, a loud wail echoed through the shop. Ajana screamed. Her body lurched backward as if an unseen force had grabbed her. Her arms flailed, her breath came in ragged gasps, and the shop plunged into total darkness. Then, the air became deathly still. Nkem stood frozen, her heart hammering in her chest. She could barely see Udoka in the eerie darkness, but she could hear her rapid breathing. Then, a whisper came. A voice, ancient and unearthly. "Why have you come here?" The voice was neither human nor entirely of this world. It was deep, chilling, and stretched through the walls like a ghostly wail. Nkem clenched her jaw. "Who speaks?" she demanded, her voice firm. A figure emerged from the shadows. A tall woman, draped in a flowing silver garment, her long, glowing hair cascading down her back. Her eyes were piercing and hollow, her skin shimmering like moonlight on water. It was Omaidike. Udoka let out a muffled scream. The goddess's lips curved into a smile. "I see you," she murmured, her voice like a whisper carried by the wind. "A woman of faith. A woman who seeks the truth." She glided forward, effortlessly, until she stood inches from Nkem. "You should not have come here." But Nkem did not flinch. "This shop is cursed," she said. "The women of Nwanta are suffering because of your magic." Omaidak laughed softly, the sound like tinkling glass. Suffering, she mused. They are more beautiful than ever. They are admired. Worshipped. Their skin glows, their hair flows like silk. She leaned closer. They owe me their gratitude. Nkem's eyes darkened. You do not give freely, she said. What have you taken from them? The goddess's smile faded. They belong to me now. Udoka gasped. Nkem's grip on her herbs tightened. You enslaved them, she accused. Their spirits are tied to your realm. You own their souls. Ajana, who had been silent until now, let out a choked sob. I had no choice, she whispered. I was desperate. Nkem turned to her sharply. You did have a choice. Ajana shook her head violently. No. You don't understand. I had nothing. I was starving. I was alone. Tears streamed down her face. She promised me everything. I only wanted to survive. Omaidak watched her coldly. You did more than survive, child. You thrived. You became powerful. You were worshipped. Ajana turned to the goddess, desperation in her eyes. But at what cost, she cried. These dreams, these shadows. I see them every night. I hear their screams. They call to me, pulling me deeper into the dark. Omaidag's expression remained unreadable. This is the price you agreed to. Ajana fell to her knees. Nkem's heart clenched. Ajana had fallen into the trap of greed and despair, and now she was drowning in the consequences. But was it too late to save her? Nkem turned to the goddess. I know what you are, she said boldly. You are a spirit of vanity and deception. You promise beauty but steal souls. Omaidag's silver eyes flashed. You speak as if you have power here, she mused, tilting her head. But this is my domain. Nkem ignored her. She turned to Ajana. You can be free of this, she urged. You can break the curse. Ajana looked up, hope flickering in her tear-streaked eyes. How? Nkem stood tall and firm. We must burn everything, she said. Every jar, every wig, every oil. Everything that carries her magic. Ajana hesitated. But, my business. Nkem's eyes burned with determination. Your business is built on cursed souls, she said. You must choose, wealth or freedom. Ajana squeezed her eyes shut. The weight of her choices pressed down on her like a boulder. But deep inside, she already knew the answer. I choose freedom, she whispered. Omaidak let out a furious shriek. Foolish girl, she hissed. You dare reject me? The walls of the shop cracked. The windows shattered. Dark mist poured from the shelves, curling like snakes. Now! Nkem shouted. She grabbed a burning lantern from the counter and hurled it at the shelves. The flames exploded. Ajana and Udoka ran to the jars, smashing them onto the floor. Omaidak let out a piercing scream. Stop, she howled. But the flames spread faster. The cursed wigs, powders, and oils went up in fire, sending dark, swirling smoke toward the ceiling. Omaidak thrashed, her silver hair whipping like wild vines. Her body began to fade, turning into a mist of shadows. Nkem held her ground. I command you, spirit of deceit and vanity, she declared, her voice powerful, unwavering. Be gone from this world. Omaidak let out one final, splitting wail. Then, she vanished. The moment she disappeared, the shop collapsed. The cursed mist dissolved into the air. The dark energy lifted. The curse was broken. Ajana collapsed into Nkem's arms, sobbing. Udoka trembled, her knees weak. And Nkem, breathing heavily, whispered a prayer of gratitude. It was over. For weeks, the news spread across Nwanta. Ajana had abandoned her ruined business. Instead, she began anew. She opened a small, honest beauty shop, using only natural ingredients and handmade wigs. Her products were no longer enchanted, but they were real. People returned, slowly. At first, many were afraid. But as time passed, they saw a new Ajana, humbled, kinder, truly at peace. She was no longer the queen of Nwanta's beauty industry. But she was free. One evening, as she watched the sunset from her modest little store, Kem and Udoka came to visit. "You have changed," Kem said. Ajana smiled. "I finally understand." Udoka raised an eyebrow. "Understand what?" Ajana turned to them, eyes filled with newfound wisdom. "True beauty is not bought with shortcuts," she said. "It is earned." The wind blew gently through the market, carrying away the last traces of Omaidak's curse. And with it, Ajana's past. What is gained through darkness will always demand